Hi and welcome back to Kitten's Crafts. I am Kitty and we are going to be working on something a little bit special today. I'm doing this collab. This video is part of a collab event with hosted by Dragons and Dresses Craft Sortium. I will be tagging them in the description box below. And if you found this by going to the playlist for that event, welcome. And thank you to all my current subscribers who are joining us for this. Check out the rest of the videos in this collab event. There's a lot of great creators that are going to be a part of it. I'm super excited. This is my first collab event. So I'm going to try and show you guys my own style of doing something a little gory, a little horror themed. And let's get started. So I'm making a little pendant, and I may turn it into earrings later, but for right now it's just going to be a little pendant of a jar of eyeballs. I like making the little eyeballs. I'm a little bit detail oriented when it comes to crafting, so you'll notice a bunch of colored pots over here. These are actually leftovers from other things, but I like to reuse my UV resin, especially my colored ones. I don't like to just toss whatever's left. And depending on what I'm doing, I really come up with some pretty great colors. And for eyeballs, I like to make them look like they have some depth to them. I will show you what I mean. I've got a couple of these guys sitting over here that are pre-done. Here's like a little precursor to the eyeballs. They're going to have these little optic nerve or stalks on them. And these are actually flexible. You'll see why in a little while. But these are my eyeballs. And you see, when you get up close to them, they do have some depth to them. The different colors. And each one is going to be individual because as I make each one, it's very different. These ones are green. That one's got some good depth to it. And they do have multiple colors. That's why I like to have so many pots. I don't have any brown ones made because I didn't have any brown resin sitting around, and I really didn't want to have that many pots of resin sitting around. But here we go. And I will show you how to make the eyeball and how to... This one's got just a giant... This one didn't have as many of the opaque colors, so I couldn't really block out the iris, or the... oh my gosh, I can't think of the word. What's the part in the middle? Come on, guys, help me out. I can't remember the word. Oh, the iris is the colored part. I'll think of it later. We'll figure that out later. I can't think of the word right now. My brain doesn't work very well on word finding sometimes. I used to be much better at it. I have a great vocabulary. I just... forget my words now, and it's been that way for the last 9 months at least. Let's see, when did I stop chemotherapy? Yeah, it was around March, and then I stopped being able to figure out words. Anyways, enough of that. So this is all you need. These are pretty common little molds. Instead of using a giant one, I'm just going to use this little guy. I hope you guys can find one of these if you don't already have one. I think they're on Amazon. I think I got this one from Temu. Honestly, it was like a pack of little jewelry molds, and I think that's where I got it from. So, we have our colored pots. I have some black here. I always have black laying around. And I am going to actually use a toothpick for this part. We're just going to drop it into this smallest reservoir here. This part is not difficult. But for the coloring of the eyeballs, I'm going to actually speed up this video because it does take me a very long time to do these. And I don't want you guys sitting around getting bored. So we're just going to throw this into our, however you cure yours. I'm doing mine at 18 watts for about 60 seconds. Nope, 60 seconds. just to do that center part. Pupil. We got it. I got there eventually. So I guess that one, its pupils are dilated. So I have some, this is one that has like aurora powder. Here we go again. Aurora powder. And it's just a nice shimmery blue color. And I was using it for something fun. And then this, I really have very little of the green left. I can't even remember what I was using this for. But it's, so I don't have a way for me to tell you exactly how much of certain inks are in these because they were mixed up for something else and I don't remember. But you can play around with your colors and kind of see what you want. But in Blue Eyes, I do like to put just a hint of green right around the pupil. And then this is a blue that I have, and this is actually partially cured in the cup. So, because we don't need a whole lot of the opaque color. And then this is sort of a, I think this is just black and blue pigment together. I can't really see. Here, I'll put this behind it. So it's just a black and a blue together. And then we have this, and this looks purple on top, but it is not purple. It is actually a dark blue. But I put a hint of pink in there to achieve the color that I was going for in a different project. But it just looks like it has like the pinkish to it. It's just a hint of purple. But it comes out as a dark blue. And I probably will barely use that. So we're actually done with the black now. I'm not going to be using any more of that. I'll wipe off my stick here. And this one goes back to the shelf with all the little pots that are covered. Okay, so we have that there. I'm going to be zooming in because this next part is really interesting to try and do on camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some clear. First we're going to do a drop in this third one. That's the size that I chose for this. So just a drop in there. Probably fills it about halfway, but we're going to be putting it up onto the sides. And then I'm putting some clear into one of my little pots. Not a whole lot, just a little bit to be painting with. And I am using Resin Rockers UV resin hard type. It's my favorite resin to use. And in the end, I will be coating each of these eyeballs with some of the Resin Rockers skim coat because I want that nice shell on the outside of it to protect it from getting the ink from the blood that we will be using. I really like having that hard shell, and skim coat is the best to use for that. Okay, so I'm going to put my little pot over here. Right now, we're going to use one of our paint brushes to just push this up the sides. I'll show you this beginning part of doing the eyeball, but we aren't going to need for me to be detailed once we get going. Okay, don't hit the little pot of color on the sides. So see here, I'm just trying to get sort of a shell, but have it be thicker in the front. So, and I actually don't mind if I get some little micro bubbles in there. I haven't noticed them be a big problem when I'm making these. So if you have problems with that, just go a little bit slower and it should even out. You can always pop them if you need to. So we're just gonna do this, and I'm gonna hold it upside down for just a second, and then we put it into our, and this one again I'm gonna go about 60 seconds on, I'm going up to 24 watts because I want that to be pretty hard on the front. It shouldn't be too bad. This pattern that I have for these, I just kind of made it up as I went, you know, testing what we're doing as we make things, I think is always the best teacher for how you want something to turn out. Do I end up with ones that look wonky? Absolutely. They're not all going to turn out perfect. And honestly, with something like this, I don't mind that it doesn't turn out perfect. Oh, I have resin on my glove. Of course I do. I always have resin on my gloves. Don't be too worried when things don't look perfect. That's something I had to get used to. I'm a perfectionist with most things, but with my resin work, I have learned to kind of like, okay, how can I kind of work that in instead of being like, oh my God, I have to start over. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's just totally wrong and I will have to start over. But in this case, we're going to try and let some of the blemishes kind of work into the design. Because as I paint the lines, especially of the eyeball, like tiny lines, sometimes they start to meld together. That's okay. We don't mind. Have you ever looked at an iris? It is not perfectly symmetrical. Your eye color, like it has these lines, but it also has like little loops and stuff. I'm not going to get that detailed, but don't worry about it if it's a little bit off. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and grab this. So now we have our little colored shell. And it didn't perfectly go up onto the sides there. It's not all the way up to the edge, but that's okay. Did I end up painting into the wrong one for a second? Possibly. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is put a drop, just a drop of resin right in the center. Is that showing up? See right there, right in the middle. I'm going to grab another drop and put that right in the middle. And I do not want that to spread. So we grab our little pen light and hit that real quick. Now we have this little spot. Let me see. I want that to be a little bit thicker. What I'm doing is actually creating the spot that the pupil is going to be behind. So you see that there. Now I'm going to go in with my colors around it. I've created sort of a space where I can put color without it bleeding into the center. With a couple of them, as I get layers going, sometimes it does still kind of start to try and go in, and this isn't perfectly round, so it's not going to come out exactly right, but you'll be able to see that there. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is put the green right around the center. And I'm just going to go in with a little bit first. And I'm using kind of a fine, I don't know what types of brushes are. I have this little pack of brushes, and they're all different sizes for doing micro detail painting, but I don't really know the names of things like that. So we're just putting in some details to the center of this. And I start with the green because I want to make sure that that green just kind of hits the center of the eye. Because if you have some color in your eye that's different, it's usually right there around the middle. And again, you'll see that these little lines are going to start melding together as I try to go around this thing. But that's okay, because they're still going to have that accent. Now there's going to be a lot of me hitting these with my pen light. So see there, it doesn't look super great just yet. But I go in there with that pen light, add a little length to one of the lines. Maybe there's a little more on this one. We still want more in the middle than we do up along the edges for this initial color. And you can go with like light blue in the center. You don't have to add green to somebody's blue eyes. But for me, I do see a lot of blue-eyed people have a little hint of green in the middle. And that's what this one is. Two of the other blue ones are not, they don't have any green in them. So it's just this particular one that I'm putting the green into, because I had a little green sitting out. Okay. So now, next part. I'm going to go in with this kind of lightish blue color. And I'm going to go right next to where the green is. And this one, I'm putting very little of this blue color. At this point, I'm going to be showing the next part. Remember we had that little dot in the middle of the clear. We're actually going to put another dot of clear right in the center. And we're going to take our pupil out here. And we're going to put that right there. And try to get it centered. I say try because all of mine ended up a little bit off. Depends on the angle I'm working at. Now you'll notice I did it underneath, and I'm not holding it on there for very long. You don't need it to cure all the way through, you just need it cured solid enough to hold that. So, at this point, what we're going to do is, let me set that down. Mix up some very, very lightly milky white. Let me focus out here. So I'm just going to take my cup, put some, let's see, how much do I need? We're going to need enough to make both sides of the eyeball, but I can always use milky white later anyways. I'm going to take my toothpick, pop that guy, take that guy out. The white that I'm using is this from HTV Ront. I mean, somebody can correct me on that. And I actually am not even going to put it in there. I'm going to put it right here. I'm just going to grab a little bit of this from the lid. That much. That's all you need. Waste not, want not. No, it just, if I'm going for a milky color, I don't need a lot. You can tell this mixing cup has seen better days. Eventually, the silicone actually breaks down and it's hard. It's not soft anymore. Okay, so here we are. We have our white, and I hit it with, and you'll probably notice some sound in the background because I was using up some of my other resin. So my thing's going to go off in a second. But what we're going to do is take our brush here and drizzle the white around this. And that's going to give us a background for our colors. The white kind of brings those colors to the foreground. And I'm just kind of lightly putting it in there so that it doesn't create too many bubbles in around the pupil there. And then at the same time, and I don't want to overfill this. We don't want this to be concave. We want it to, at the very least, be even with the top of the mold. And then over here in the same size one, and I'm now wondering if my white is white enough, but if this one's a little bit more translucent than the other one, then so be it. So I'm going to make the back side of the eyeball over here. And since it is fairly translucent, I'm not too worried about it curing. But we want it to be, and I'm kind of pressing my brush down in there. We want this one also to be about even with the top of the mold so that we can put the two sides together. Oh, there we go. And again, I'll use this white in something else. Okay, so now I'm going to cure this and show you how to put it together. Okay, so here we are. We have our two sides. This one isn't super opaque yet, but I'm going to take that guy off there. We'll see how we did with our coloring. It's an interesting coloring. I wasn't quite sure how that one was going to go. I did it a little bit differently than my other ones, but it's still the same process. And you can see it pulled into the center a little more than I wanted it to, and that's probably because of how I was holding my mold as I was painting. But here we go. We're going to take some of our clear and we're just going to paint it onto the back here. To show you real quick, this is what I'm going to use for putting the eye stalk on the back. And what it is this. I don't have any other soft UV resin right now. This is something that I got off of Temu. It's just soft cure resin, so it'll bend when I go to put it inside of something. And then the colors that I used are purplish red and sugar light from Let's Resin. And these are alcohol inks, but they work really well for what we're going to do. Even though it's UV resin, these ones don't get bleached out by the process of this. But I just mix that to the color that I want. There's no rhyme or reason to how many drops or anything like that. It's about equal of each, but it kind of creates the right red for what I'm doing. You can always do something else. I also know that if you put a little bit of yellow on the eye stalk first and then cover it with red, it kind of adds a little something to it. I don't have any yellow mixed up right now and I don't really want to go to that much depth, but it kind of adds a little bit of that kind of tendon look underneath. If you're going for a full-on gore, try putting a little yellow. Okay, so here we go. And you see, this one ended up with quite a bit of clear in between. Not too worried about it. Put this off to the side. So I'm gonna have to sand this. We're just gonna sand it with a nail file. Here we are, done with that part. What I'm going to do next is I got to even this out just a little bit. And yeah, there's probably a little bit of dust still left on there. My brush isn't exactly the best brush for that. And we have this little piece right here we need to fill in. I don't like that. So what we're going to do is put this on my handy dandy little it's for doing nail art, and I'm going to use my brush with a little white. It's still that milky white that we have. Alright, what I've decided to do here is I'm going to add some white to my resin. So I'm going to cure this real quick the way that it is and then add some white so that it's a better white. I don't like how this white is turning out. Okay, so now we're going to try that again with it a little bit more white. Okay, and at this point you notice it's really lumpy. If you want to, you can paint onto the back. I'm not really all that worried about it, but I am going to take now my clear, actually I'm going to use my skim coat and paint a layer all the way around. So I'm going to grab one of my other eyeballs, and you'll hear background noise. That's okay. My daughter is getting food. So you can see how different it is in one of the ones that I took my time and really got the details in there. Whoop! And it's very round. So it's harder to do through the camera lens than it is to do it without that. Okay, so I'm going to take this guy and we're going to put the back on, which all it is there went my eyeball. I'll just grab another one. We'll do one of the green ones, guys. And now for this project, I'm actually using some saran wrap, and also the jar is going to be a cap from a little spray bottle. So we're doing some reusing and recycling with this project. That was actually one of the parts of the collab. So what we do here, this part's pretty simple. I'm actually going to go to one of the sides and we're going to paint a little bit of clear on there. Let me get my paintbrush. We're going to paint a little clear on the eyeball. You will get it on your glove doing this part. And then we're going to put the edge, and don't worry if your plastic is a little bit wrinkled, that actually adds to it. And then I'm gonna cure that just so that it sits still. I am not worried about it at this point, but we want to be able to wrap that. Boop. So now I'm going to turn it a little. And you notice I'm not cutting this off. There's a reason for that. So I'm going to take this. We're going to paint a little bit more clear on there. Wrap it some more. Oh, if it'll cooperate. Come on. This plastic wants to curl the other way. Come on. This way. Okay, and I'm going to pull it back so that it makes sense, because we don't want it all the way up at the color. Zap that real quick. The making of the eyeball itself is the longest part of this project. Like, overall, the rest of it isn't as time consuming as the making of the eyeball. I'm going to wrap this part this way and kind of bring the two sides together. And don't worry if it doesn't, like, it's not perfect all the way around the eye. It'll be fine. Okay, so now we've got that. And I've got my glove partially cured to the bag, or the saran wrap. So I'm pulling this kind of tight. I want, that actually came off of there. So I'm going to put some more resin inside of there. We're gonna wrap that and kind of hold it right there. Okay, now we should have it on there pretty good, but we're still going to hold the eye all the way around so that your fingers are kind of closed together on the plastic behind it. And we're going to twist and then pull. And this is the part that's a little, hold on to the plastic, not the eye. I'm going to twist that pretty tight. Sorry, this is not, come on, focus. This part I don't want to fix my focus just because of where we're at. Okay, so then I'm going to kind of unravel this part because it's harder to break unless you do. And you just pull that off of there because you kind of want that end to be rough. So we've got that guy, and then I'm going to keep twisting it the way that we did earlier till it's nice and tight there. And then kind of let it go. It's going to have its natural kind of form there. And then I kind of just pinch it. So now we're going to hold on to this, and we've got our pre-mixed bloody resin. And for this part, I'm actually going to use a stick, not a paintbrush. I found it worked better. So now we're just going to kind of set the resin on the plastic wrap. It'll kind of create its own little grooves. Of course, I picked a part that didn't have as many. So it'll settle into the wrinkles of the plastic, which give it that little edge to it. See what I mean? Okay. And there we have our eyeball. So you just do that with all the eyeballs that you want to put into your jar. And we're going to do this next part. I'm also going to set this on a tray and put it in my machine for about 60 seconds on high, just to make sure that this sets. But I'm going to do that off camera, and then we will be back to do the jar and to add our blood. Alright, so next section here, and you'll notice the lighting is different. I'm filming this part on a separate day. So, one of the things I wanted to be able to do is with this little cap, and these are for like little spray bottles. I don't even have any right here. But I always end up finding these all over my house. And I thought it would be a good idea. Hey, let's take it and turn it into something fun. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to clean the inside just with a little bit of 91% isopropyl alcohol. Easy for me to say. Isopropyl alcohol. Yeah. You know what I mean. And it's the 91%, not the 99%, because it was at my local drugstore and I couldn't find the 99%. I know I can order it, but I just worked with what I had and it was cheap. So I'm just giving this a quick wipe down because I want to make sure that everything's going to be good with this. And then also I'm going to coat it because I feel like once I have my mix of my dyes for my blood, I don't want it to stick or dye this plastic. And I feel like it'll try to do that. So, because I don't know what kind of plastic this is. This is just a random cap I found laying around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of my Resin Rockers Skim Coat and coat it. I probably could use this, but I trust the coating, the shell coating, the hard shell of the skim coat a little bit more. So I'm going to take a brush, and I have a little bit of skim coat in here. Let's see if it's still, yeah, still usable. I'm going to take one of my brushes and just give it a quick inside. And I'm going to end up doing the outside as well, because that's just how this goes. Oh my goodness, where are my brushes? I'm going to end up, the next time I go to take a pause in this video, I will have to go gather up brushes. I was cleaning my brushes, and I have gotten to the point where so I've told you guys that I use these little brushes. I've showed you the different tips that each one has. This one's kind of a longer, thinner brush head. But I have the micro detail brushes and just a bunch of different sizes that came in this little set. And they're really inexpensive. I'm trying to remember, I think it's #5 of my videos. It's either 5 or 6 that I put the link to these brushes in the description of that video. But I can put it in this one as well. They're just a really inexpensive set with a bunch of different sizes. Now, I do clean them, and I try to keep them regularly used. If you don't use them for a while, the brushes, the hairs of the brushes do get all weird. Like if you're not constantly using them when you use them with resin anyways. I know it's different with other things, but if you're not using them regularly, eventually the brushes just kind of get to where you can't keep going. And this is not, yeah, it's fine. But what I was doing is I was cleaning my brushes, and I do use alcohol to clean them in between, and then I wipe them off on a paper towel while I'm using them. But even then, you're still going to end up with the brushes kind of break down eventually, especially since I'm using alcohol to clean them. I honestly need to get some resin cleaner, but I'm out right now, because you can use resin cleaner on the brushes and it really helps to maintain them. But eventually my brushes, the bristles, will start to pull away from each other, and I have to get new brushes. Not a big deal. And since I have that really inexpensive set, I have multiples of each of the sizes. So I just had to cycle out a set, and I forgot to put them on here before I hit record. So you see what I'm doing? I'm just coating the inside, and I'm not really worried about like making it super uniform. We are making something bloody, gory, and a little fun. So if there's some bubbles in there, I'm not worried about it. I am going to do enough of a coating to where I can kind of roll it. This is a higher viscosity resin, so I get to kind of have a little bit more play with it. It's not going to roll as fast. It kind of creates a more even coating as it's moving, which is why it's the perfect resin for doing the glitter pens, because you're putting them on those racks and moving them constantly. I think it would also be a really good resin to use for, and you'd have to check with resin rockers to find out, but and again, I use this in ways that it is not exactly intended for, so don't always follow my lead. If you have a higher viscosity resin, or if you do that trick with the clear glue, I know Daniel Cooper adds a little clear glue and a very, very little, like just a dab of the clear glue to resin just to thicken it up a little bit. That'll work perfectly okay. I just like to use the skim coat this way. But anyways, the higher viscosity, you get more chances to kind of move it, and I think it would make ring making easier if you have those rings that you need to kind of, you know, the channel rings where you got to move them as you're doing it. Now there is some hair. I'm going to end up getting that on my wrist. I just knew it. Okay. But yeah, as you're moving the channel rings, because you want them to be evenly coated, a higher viscosity resin is definitely going to be helpful for a lot of that, because you can kind of have more time as it's rolling. Okay, make sure I get the bottom here. I hope you can see what I'm doing. I think you can. I just want to make sure that bottom is coated. So I'm going to kind of get down. Now, remember earlier I said I was using soft resin for the eye stalks on these eyeballs. And the reason for that is because as we try to shove it down into this little jar, we need to have a little bit of movement. And you won't necessarily know ahead of time, or you can just make the eye stalks really short, but you won't necessarily know ahead of time how much room you need. And for this one, I'm just going to be putting in 4 eyeballs because I made the stalks pretty big, and I wanted to have the liquid blood able to move around inside of there. I want to be able to see the blood moving. Okay, so I'm going to cure this real quick. Let's see. And then I'm going to show you how we're going to mix up our blood here. So what this is in this cup is a little bit of light corn syrup and just a touch of water. Just to give me, because the corn syrup's a little thick, and I also make a version of this for putting on like hands and stuff that has hand sanitizer in it. I have this hydrating hand sanitizer. That works great, except for I tested it with doing these, and it actually tries to eat the coating on the eyeballs. So we're not doing that. So I came up with a new thing. And it's pretty basic. It's just corn syrup and a little bit of water. And it's just for the movement. So, and I have quite a bit in here. I don't plan on using this much of this blood, but I probably will save it and see about doing one, a second one of these jars, and two, maybe another project. I mean, Halloween's coming up and my kids love it when I make little odd things. So what I'm doing, we've got our sugar light, and I'm gonna put 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm putting 8 drops of that in there. Again, I'm not entirely sure how much. I'm gonna leave this open because I have a feeling I'm gonna end up having to use more. And then we're gonna put 8 drops of the purplish red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so there's those. We're gonna mix this up and see if we can get a really good kind of bloody color. Oh, and one thing I wanted to tell you guys, during our making of our eyeball yesterday, or earlier in the video, I said I wanted to see what yellow looked like underneath the red soft resin that I used, and I actually do like how it turned out. It got a little bit thin with the blood there, but it's gonna look good with the blood around it. But I actually kind of like the way that the yellow turned out underneath the blood. It's kind of a cool look. You have to be careful with the softer resin though. If you mess with it too much, it will start to pull away from the saran wrap. And that's just kind of the nature of soft resin anyways. I do make some things with it because I like to make something out of a soft resin and then form it and then paint it with hard resin. Just really depends on what you're doing. I know they're kind of made for other things, but it's just what I do. Okay, I don't know if you can see this, but it's not going to stick to our stick very well. But look at the color that we're getting here. I don't want to tip it too far. This color is actually very, very blood-like. Mixing the purplish red and the sugar light together creates a very bloody look. I'm really hoping this turns out well inside of the little jar. Also, I was going to use a bottle cap for our lid for our jar, but I didn't like how it looked. So we're going to be making a lid, and I will get that out momentarily, unless it's right here. It is right here. I have a little mold set, and I'll try to find the link for it. I have a little mold set for making boba cups. They're the mini boba cups. I'm sure you've seen them. They're tiny. They're adorable. But we love boba here in our house. So I got the little set, and there's a flat lid. So I was going to try and fit that on there. I'm not sure if it's going to fit, actually, now that I'm looking at it. It's close, so I think I can make that work. I just need to give, when I put the resin into this, I will give it a lip around the edge, or paint a lip on it after I've poured it. I want to make sure that there's a good layer of the skim coat in there. Yeah, it looks like it's coated. I think there's some dust stuck in it, but Very dusty house. Okay, so this color is so very bloody, you guys. Oh my gosh. It's so very bloody. And we may end up with some little clots in there. I found that when I first did this, and I thought it added to it. So if you end up with the inks kind of clotting, because I mean, look at what Sugarlight does around the tip. Yeah, so we may end up with some of that in this bloody mix. But it's all good. All right, so I'm not just making that. I have just some baby oil. It's just basic baby oil. Actually, it's lavender scented, so it smells very nice right now. And what I'm going to be doing is, after we get our eyeballs situated in there, I'm going to be putting baby oil in first, and then putting the blood mix in there. And it is heavier, so it's going to kind of like sift through the baby oil, but I want the baby oil to coat everything first so that it moves around the right way. It's just how it's going to work. So now I'm going to make our lid. Just very quickly, just using regular resin for this. For the lid, I'm just going to paint this into my little mold here. And I'm not worried about the dust at this point. I'm now going to arrange my eyeballs. I want to do a couple of them kind of down. I think because, let's see, that one's going to go straight in. So I'm going to put this and kind of have it, I want them to, see if I can use my tweezers and kind of move it around in there. I want to see the eye facing out. We put so much detail into these that I want to see that detail from outside of the jar. Now, if I was putting more eyeballs into this, I would probably put some facing down as well, because if this is like hanging, you want to have all those details all over the place. It's good. I mean, we get the gist, right? And we can still see all of the eyeballs. So, yeah. I'm not really a horror genre type of person. I like scary, like Haunting of Hill House is one of my absolute favorite miniseries type shows. Just love it. But, like, there are other ones that I just won't watch. Okay, so we see that this guy just does not fit in there. That's okay. I wanted this shape, and now I'm going to take, I have this guy. So that fits there, and what we're probably going to want is that there. So what I'm going to do is first, I want to figure out if that's going to fit. So we're going to size this guy. If I need to go to the upper one, that's okay. Yeah. We may have to do that one. This one is still just a bit... I mean, I can stretch it to fit, but does that then mean that that will fit? Yeah, we'll go with that one, and if it doesn't fit, we will fix it. The other thing I wanted to do is, the reason I wanted this shape in the center is if I wanted to put like a little knob on there. So I'm going to put that part facing down in the center of this mold. And we're just going to fuzz along. Get out of there. Don't make me break out my tape. Okay. We're just gonna try and arrange that. Oh. On camera, kitty. On camera. So we're just gonna put that in the center there. I hope I'm able to fit all the details in here. I may not do like where I paint the that, doing a coating of it. It's not necessarily something you need to watch. It's not super important. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to press that down and then fill that. Press it down and you can kind of see it. I'm not worried about going around the edges of it, just I want that middle to stay. I think that's good enough. If I have to paint it, I have to paint it. And we're just going to fill this in. I'm going to let that settle into around there. Get rid of our bubble here. And again, I'm not being super careful about like micro bubbles or any of that right at the moment. This is just kind of a fun Halloween project. It's not something that I'm being like overly detailed. Well, I'm being overly detailed because that's just who I am. But like I'm not being overly fussy about blemishes, I guess. If it's a big bubble though, let's go ahead and grab that guy. What that is the center there is trying to get resin. So before that does that too much, put some more in here. I'm going to use the light to help me see how much. Okay. See how it's doing that? One way to help us with that, because what it's doing is trying to pull the resin into the center underneath. So it's letting go of the air that's underneath there. I can just take my paintbrush and kind of slowly push on the center of that. It may have filled in my middle. Maybe not. Okay. We're going to cure this again. So now we have our little lid here. And I'm going to put that back under for about 60 seconds just to get that other side. Okay, so now we have our little lid. And again, we've got like a little bit of blemishes on the top from where it was trying to sneak underneath there. That's okay. It didn't fill in my center, so I'm really happy with that. And once we go to put whatever kind of connector piece on the top for connecting it to earrings or whatever we glue onto the top there, that's gonna kind of play into that too. But we're gonna probably coat it. At least I usually do. I usually put a coating wherever I connect it. And again, I'm not entirely sure how I'm gonna finish these, so that's not gonna be in this video. I may post it to my YouTube channel at some point. I like to post pictures of projects on the weekends that aren't necessarily in a video or have other things. So now we're gonna put it together. Here goes our jar, guys. Here's our eyeballs. First, we're gonna be putting in just the baby oil. That's probably enough. It's about a third. Maybe I'll put it about halfway baby oil. Okay. So half with baby oil, and then we're gonna go half with our blood here. And this is gonna be so hard to show on camera. See if we can see how I want to hold this. That green one's kind of deep in there. I feel like I should move that. Like I want it closer to the side. Will I be able to? Good enough. Okay. Here we go, guys. Moment of truth with our blood. Can't really see it in the... Not yet, anyways. So, because it's heavier, it's gonna do this. And I can turn it sideways once I have it sealed. Oh, you really can't see it on camera. This blood is about as thick as actual blood. So it kind of falls through the baby oil. And I'm just gonna make it fill up to about the top. So we can glue our lid on. Should I go just under the lip? Yeah, about that far. So there'll be a little bit of air in there, but safety's sake here. so when I glue it on I don't end up with baby oil coming up around that. So it's hard to see just yet. Can you see that? The blood is not translucent like the rest of the stuff. Sorry, I'm entertained by it. Okay. So I don't want the baby oil to get up where this seal is going to be. Oh no! Like that. Here I am trying to turn it so you guys can see it. And I did exactly what I didn't want to do. Okay. So now I'm going to wipe the rim down, because if you get baby oil right there, because I know I've run into that with shakers, if you get the baby oil up around the lip, it makes it so that when you go to seal it, it doesn't seal right. You will spring a leak. Okay. That actually makes me want to put a little more liquid in there. So just a little bit more of the baby oil. Okay. All right. So now we are going to use just our regular resin, and we're going to paint around the edges here. Yep. So just like when I do my shakers, I'm gonna have to do this a little funky. Now what I just did there, and I'm gonna let go now, I held it right up against the edge and then I actually used the skim coat because it's harder, and now I'm just going, because I didn't want to push it in there, so I'm going to go around. So I should have used the bigger one of those circles. If you have one of those, use the bigger one. Okay, and we're back. So I ended up having to put another layer around the edge here, which is fine. I don't mind. I wiped it down really good to make sure that I wasn't getting baby oil all over everything, because it's a really smooth surface. And I may even come in and do, because this is plastic right now, so I may come in and do clear coat more later. But look at that, guys. Does that look just disgusting? And then we can turn it over, and that blood, as soon as it gets to moving, it will move. Just gotta get the right angle here. It's kind of thick, so you gotta give it some time. The baby oil doesn't want to move out of the way. Okay. Maybe I made my blood too thick this time. See, I tested this already. Oh, there we go. It's moving around down there. See it move? I think I need to just kind of play with rolling it around. Oh, and I did add a little jar lid handle. It's just the smallest section in that little heart or circle mold that I have. So here we go. The air moves around really well. Maybe my blood got too thick this time. So I'm going to play with that some more, but some of it's moving and some of it isn't. Even without the blood moving around though, but it is moving. I can see some of it. And then it takes time to come back down. So it's just a little bit thick compared to the baby oil. The baby oil is, you know, very thin and it just needs time. So if I left it this way for a while, eventually it would all move to the bottom here, and then move it the other way, and it moves the other way. But even without it moving very quickly, that is some gross looking stuff. So it's almost like it's got fluid and blood in there. Ugh. And I really love how the eye stalks turned out. I think it looks pretty good. I don't know. You let me know how you think it went. There's some struggles in there, but overall, I think that looks like a little gross jar from a mad scientist's lab. Those eyes look just freaky. I'm gonna play with this for a while. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for joining me. This was fun, a little outside of my usual, but I will see you next time. Bye.